Hey, everybody, welcome back to the strategy session. I am Rick Wilson, your host tonight, joined by my friend Matthew Dowd, another member of the Lincoln Project team that is bringing the fight to the bad guys this year. Matt, it's a big night tonight. We've got a whole bunch of primaries in Florida, Alaska, Wyoming, California, for a couple specials here and there. We're getting on to the end of primary season.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we finally at the end of primary season? I actually like the way they do it in Texas, where they hold the primary in March and you can have a general election for 7.5 months.
Oh, gosh, I know. Being a longtime Florida guy, these fall primaries always just crush you because it's like you have to do all the statewide campaigning and all the fundraising in 60 days.
Yep,
exactly. Well, 70 days, but it's a crush. So, I think Florida, everybody's watching Florida. I think the governor's race is looking good for David Jolly in the primary. In all these places, folks, the big issues, data centers, crypto, taxes, and of course, affordability has just eaten up the mind space of people in the country this year, Matt. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about, like, Florida is a more conservative state, even for Democrats, than a lot of other states. And you're going to end up, it looks like tonight, we don't know yet, but it looks like David Jolly and Alex Vindman are going to be the statewide candidates at the top of the ticket. And I'm curious about your thoughts about how, these progressive movements in the primaries in other states have been very active. And it's not going to be that way in Florida. It doesn't look like at this point. What are your thoughts on how these races are going to affect the fall? How these more conservative candidates in Florida are going to affect the fall?
Well, to me, there's been a total misread by so many folks in this when they describe the results as left or progressive versus moderate. And you look at race after race, and Rick, you've done enough races, and I've worked with you a bunch, that in the end, candidate quality and candidate ability to communicate
100%.
and candidate passion, all those things, and a candidate sense of authenticity is way, way, way more powerful than ideology. I mean, it's why the progressive won in Michigan in the Senate race. He was a much better candidate, and he proves himself every day.
Vastly better candidate.
To be a better candidate. And in race after race, it's why Flanagan in Minnesota, instead of winning by 3 or 4, she won by 20. Mm-hmm. The media doesn't know how to talk about it. So they default into this, most of the media defaults into this progressive versus moderate thing, when right. In reality, it's candidate quality.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, we saw that in Wisconsin last week where the DSA candidate just was not as good as the guy who actually won the race. He got out, he did the work. And Syed, he could have been left, right, or center with that a degree of intensity and authenticity. Man, I think he is truly, I think he's a very impressive candidate.
Yeah. And Rick, it goes to sort of what we're trying to do here at Lincoln Project is we're not in a moment where people want you to mince words.
Right.
They want you to just tell it to them straight and right. Tell it to them to say, this is the deal. That's why any candidate, we could look forward to 2028. Any candidate that tries to do this, I'm going to heal the country and we shouldn't prosecute Donald Trump and we're going to bring people together. Anybody that does that, I think is immediately disqualified.
That's a last place candidate in my assessment, no matter what. This idea that you can't have accountability just because, because we're nice guys. No.
Yeah, and this is the mistake. And I thought Biden was a good president. I thought Obama was a good president, but mm-hmm. This is the mistake they made. They fell into this trap of, I'm going to work with the Republicans and I'm going to do these right. things. And then in the end, I'll be able to get done what I should have got done. And I think both of them missed an opportunity to address the structural problem in our country and the structural problem in the democracy. They both didn't they could have done certain things that would have prevented where we are today by, when they had majorities, when they had 100%. The ability to do it, but they thought, I'm going to work with the Republicans on things. And it's a mistake.
I get why President Biden wanted to do the infrastructure bill and the CHIPS Act and the Recovery Act. I get why he wanted to do it, but I also feel like that did lead them to take their foot off the gas on things like January 6th and things like the Trump classified documents prosecutions until it was way too late in the game
And who we put in as Attorney General.
I'm sure I've never met Merrick Garland. I'm sure he is a lovely man. He was not the man for that moment.
No, it's like saying that there's somebody's a lovely man and they're going to go into a gladiator fight. And I was like, that guy was a really nice guy. We're in a gladiator
really good
fight.
guy. Really nice guy.
Fight.
Superb, friendly guy. Well, folks, we've got a race tonight in Florida. I just want to bring this up, Matt, before we move on to the next thing. I meant to mention this a minute ago. We have a race in Florida's 19th congressional district, which is sort of Cape Coral, Bonita Springs, part of Naples, which, folks, is in Florida, it is the hotbed of MAGA. It is the white hot center of MAGA in Florida. And it is a race with not one, not two, but three former Republican congressmen, all who had to leave in disgrace. An insane woman. And I mean, she makes Lauren Boebert look like a Nobel Prize winning physicist. And like 15 other people, all of whom are racing to become the craziest MAGA. Matthew, and the reason I bring this up is, in my mind, there's a moment, unless Trump keels over tomorrow, I really feel like that's the future of a lot of Republican primaries. Weirder and weirder, more and more about the dear leader, even after he's going to be out of office. I feel like that's a weird preview. A lot of these guys are frustrated. They want to run for something. They want to be in office. They want to get power, but they have to go through now a reality show, not just a primary.
Well, I actually think you're right to sort of focus on that, because I think too often we think, okay, once Trump's gone, then everything will return to normal, which it won't. No. And the Republican Party has become, it's caught the virus, right? And there's no antidote to it other than eliminating it, right? Eliminating it. And I actually think it could get worse in the Republican Party, because there's a bunch of voters that are going to think that Donald Trump won 2 elections, or in some of the most of their minds, 3 elections.
Right.
But that he won these elections, and the reason why the Republicans aren't winning enough is they're not being enough like Donald Trump. There's a whole bunch of MAGA voters that think that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And this is like purity checks inside of political parties rarely end well for the party's broad appeal. So speaking of broad appeal, we've got Donald Trump's numbers are crashing.
Yeah.
And it might be, Matt, call me crazy, it might be because he's now threatened to bomb Oman, one of our longest standing allies in the Gulf. He's got Jared Kushner running around saying he's got a secret deal he can't tell us about. And we've declared the Strait of Hormuz as a new U.S. territory. Maybe that's something to do with these numbers.
Do you ever see the movie The Campaign with Jason Sudeikis? And
absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
If for all you all that haven't seen it, it's a really funny movie.
Go see it.
It's a very funny movie. Remember the scene in the movie where he walks in the office and Will Ferrell's sitting at and he comes up with this crazy, right? It's like, here's my campaign plan, and Jason Sudeikis turns and says, "Is that book you're reading a book of bad campaign ideas?" That's what he says to me. Is that a book of bad? It's as if the Republicans are reading from a book of bad ideas. They're not addressing any of the issues. They're not addressing any of the issues that people care about.
Nope,
inflation,
none.
Jobs, healthcare, all of those things, and actually a different foreign policy. And they keep coming up, and Donald Trump keeps coming up with these crazy thoughts and these crazy ideas that every moment you think. I thought, when we talked a few weeks ago on this, I thought, oh, it can't get worse. It's actually gotten worse.
It's got worse.
And Donald Trump now has a 74% disapproval rating among independents.
Yeah.
74% disapproval.
Which, to loop back on Florida one more time, folks, the largest group of voters in Florida are nonpartisan voters. They are NPAs. They are the classic independents. They used to vote Republican about 60% of the time. And the polling now has flipped upside down. And 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 against is not where you want to be in a state with a big pool of independent voters.
Yeah, and I would argue, and I know you've pushed this, I would argue we shouldn't look past Florida on election night, because as we've talked before, Donald Trump's much worse position than he was in 2018. Much worse position in Florida than he was in 2018. He had a dead even job approval rating in Florida. Now I think it's double digits negative, and it's minus 20 on the economy. And that race for governor in Florida, and you remember this in 2018, with a rather flawed Democratic candidate, lost by less than 1% of the vote. In 2018.
It is, and Byron Donalds has now spent close to $40 million, and his approval went from, or disapproval stayed the same, or actually rose a little bit, but his approval was at 40 when he started and is at 41 now. He better get $1 billion before now on election day, because that math isn't mathing, as the kids say. So, you know, that these polling numbers, as I like to sort of summarize it, America really does not like Donald Trump.
Yep.
The magic is gone.
Yep.
I mean, that we're now deep into the base number, and you know, you see these things in Quinnipiac, as you and I both know, it's a good poll, solid poll. All these things that were his strengths are now completely blown out. I mean,
he has not a single positive rating on any issue.
Correct.
On any issue. And people forget that in 2018 he had a +8 on the economy. It's now minus 30. Minus 30 on the economy. He had a +8 when he lost bad in 2018. And in this idea that Donald Trump is Teflon Don, which is like often called, he's not Teflon Don when you have a 35% approval rating.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I keep saying to people, you know, I feel like this election is interestingly sort of the weird love child of 2006 and 2018. It's the 2006 high gas prices, inflation, unpopular form, where you and I both remember that great year. That was such a great year. But 2018, with the widespread disconnect with the voters that Trump had then, and he's much worse off now than he was then. He's much worse off.
And the Republican base is much less unenthusiastic. It's when you look at the non-MAGA Republicans, which are about 25% of the Republican Party, Republican voters. Those voters, in my view, are either going to skip high-profile races or not vote.
I am increasingly believing that because Trump's not on the ballot and the situation is so grim, you know, they don't ever have to admit it that they are angry with him. They probably never will. But the reality is they're going to show it, I think, by not coming out to vote. And that's that's going to be a bigger, you know, the Democrats smartly, they're now doing the sort of like modesty thing. We're going to fight hard for the Senate. We think we'll get 18 House seats. I think now they're starting to put the brakes on so people don't get overconfident. But there's no world where Donald Trump is a net advantage to a lot of these candidates. I mean, you think Ken Paxton's going to bring Donald Trump to Texas? I don't think so. Do
you think they're going to be the Republican senators going to bring Donald Trump to Alaska? Do you think that?
No.
Do you think the woman in Iowa is going to bring him to Iowa? I mean, none of these. The only people that will are the people that are, I think they're no longer swing races. I mean, I think what's happened in the last 60 days is races that we thought were swing are no longer swing.
Right. Like he'll show up in South Carolina. Yeah. He's not going to show up in Florida.
Nope.
And I think that is one more thing, one more chip in the Trump control of the party. The primaries are over, and now his presence in their lives is a net negative, and then some.
Yeah, that's a really good point people should make, because Donald Trump has never helped somebody get across the general election line.
No,
he's never helped a single candidate get across the general election.
I mean, and this was before your time at LP, but in 2021, when we were helping Ossoff and Reverend Warnock in Georgia, Trump, every time Trump showed up, our trackers showed another dip for the Republicans. Every single time he made a speech or tweeted about it, you could almost measure it. It was a short porch race, but we were tracking almost from the very first day. And it was just disastrous because he would keep saying things like, "Oh, the election was rigged, and it's still rigged. Don't vote." Okay. Sure thing, Donald. You keep that up. Speaking of future Republican campaigns, you and I have both done our penance in the great state of Iowa.
Yes.
And Pete Hegseth is headed out there this weekend to campaign. It is widely being interpreted as Pete Hegseth wants to run for president. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, I don't get how any Republican candidate would feel good about him showing up. I don't like him showing up in a state And maybe he, the level of delusion in MAGA world is high, as you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe he thinks that because he's, the crazy stuff he does, he's crazier than everybody else, and therefore it gives him an opportunity in this. I mean, I don't get it. He's only going to hurt the local candidates.
Oh yeah. I don't see any world where that is a
especially in the midst of the Iran debacle. He's going to go out there as Secretary of Defense in the midst of the Iran debacle.
We've got people starving on an aircraft carrier and in miserable conditions, and he's going to go out and start a presidential flirtation at the least. I'm sorry, but read the room, Pete.
Yes.
So, speaking of Hegseth, I want to bring up the South Korea situation because Trump's affection for dictators is widely known, and this week it manifested itself as America jumping in to be, looks like, more a part of the axis of evil than ever before.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you look at that, and then you look at it. I don't know if it says it in this tweet or not, but he said it online when he basically said South Korea and Australia and Japan, they didn't support me in the Iran deal, which actually, my view is the intelligence test, and they passed it in this case. He's as if he's like a jilted boyfriend or something. Like, they didn't do this, so I'm not gonna protect anybody. I mean, it's such a bizarre approach to the world.
It's such, and we've all heard the protection racket speech. That's a nice country you have. There'd be a shame if there was a fire. Maybe you should pay me some protection money. We've heard that a lot of times, but I mean, the entire predicate of the Republican Party's national security argument right now is Iran and China are the two most important things in the world. So he's attacking our allies in the Gulf region, like Oman, and he's attacking our ally in South Korea, which is a central linchpin in the Indo-Pacific strategy against China's expansion. I mean, there's a part of me now that is, and I hesitate to diagnose Donald Trump, but I don't know if Grandpa is really clear on who's who anymore on the map.
I mean, I don't want to stretch this line too far, but the only beneficiary of this is dictators overseas, but more importantly, our oligarchs.
Yeah.
If you think about a world that no longer has a unified set of values, right?
Yep.
It is the oligarchs who, the Elon Musks of the world and Russian oligarchs and other oligarchs here. And I actually think Donald Trump deep down believes that the world would be a better place if the wealthiest people who are disconnected from job growth and all the other things and don't have any idea what the average person goes through, this is a world that as they unfold it is a perfect playpen for oligarchs.
It really is. If you look at that, like, sort of the Russian theory, which I think Trump doesn't understand, but probably kind of viscerally wants. You divide the world into three chunks. Russia gets Europe, China gets Asia, Trump gets North and South America. And I mean, that's simple enough for him to understand, I guess, but it really is a world where very, very, very wealthy people will be empowered beyond any boundaries of law or democratic governance of any kind. I think there are a lot of people that would want that. I really do. I think there's a lot of
and I think the sort of billionaire tech bro class would just as soon there not be international law.
Sure. Oh, I know somebody who works with one of the bad guys in the list, let's just say that, who described it to me as like, you cannot believe how petty they are when they're told things like they have to show a passport flying their jet into a country. They get so angry. Don't you know that I developed this blah, 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 software? No, show me your passport, jerk. So I want to do one more thing on the foreign policy front. Let's play this clip of Mike Johnson because it's a chef's kiss.
Table for the U.S. economy to take off like a rocket. If you look at it, we were doing that the first quarter of this year, and then we got into this conflict with Iran. Now look.
We got into it. Matthew, we got into it.
I stepped in this. If I stepped in this puddle by mistake and my shoes wet.
Right. We got into it. Somehow it happened to somebody else.
I mean he has become a parody of himself. The other day, I'm sure you saw it. The other day when he said, which I actually thought was the greatest Democratic talking point, when he said, if the Democrats win, they're going to tear down everything Donald Trump has done. And I was like, yeah.
Yes, we are, for a start. But don't worry, Donald Trump will always have his traveling companion, Natalie Harp. Jon Ossoff, without saying anything beyond what is known to be true.
He's very good, by the way, Rick.
Book.
He's very good. He's very good.
I have to say, I have watched him grow in the last year as a political talent, and he's getting into that very high firmament now.
Yep.
Of superb communicators, authenticity, heart, passion, all those things you were talking about in the beginning. And there's a reason why he's jumped up in the odds makers for 28.
Oh, he's a talent, man. He's a talent.
Yeah, he really is. And he's also learned that part of the talent you have to bring to the table is to poke Trump.
Yep.
Right now.
Well, he's learned to do it, and he's done it he does it in a way. I mean, the thing about Jon Ossoff, which you can't manufacture, he can do it without coming across as a jerk, right? He does it in a way that pokes Donald Trump, but he comes across as just like, I'm just gonna tell you what it is. I don't, you guys decide.
Well, it's interesting, that race, Republicans, I know some Republicans who a year ago were extremely optimistic about that race. And now I was told at an event over the weekend that Tim Scott, who's doing the finances for the NRSC, told somebody that's done. It's cooked. It's over. Forget it.
Yeah. I heard that same thing among a Republican group. And I also heard they also believe the North Carolina thing is done. Yeah.
North Carolina. Yeah. They've given up on North Carolina. What I was told is their big focus is going to be saving Susan Collins. That's where they think they still have a fighting chance. Alaska,
which ought to tell all of us about who Susan Collins is.
Correct. That is, yes. Thank you, Matthew. Exactly right. If they're going to run to her defense, they're not going to help Ken Paxton. They're not going to help Collins. Georgia Collins. They're not going to help Whatley. They've decided Susan Collins is just fine with them.
Yeah, it's a needed vote for them. That's what it tells you. Everything you need to know about Susan Collins.
That is exactly right. But Ossoff triggered the Trump people this week in a way that I've just loved so much, because he said that Trump wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie. He didn't say anything beyond that. But my Lord, the MAGA flip out about this has been, these are people, by the way, that say that their enemies they used to say that Hillary Clinton murdered U.S. soldiers and ran a cannibal pedophile ring in a pizza restaurant in D.C. But you can't say that Trump likes to travel with Natalie Harp. And their reaction is, it's been a big tell.
Oh, it's a huge tell in this. I actually think we should do a series, Travels with Natalie or something, because it would really, and talk about somebody, and you've, I'm sure, watched her and all that. And I don't know if we have a clip of her talking in this, but she's another wackadoodle. As
somebody texted me this morning, that woman's going to boil rabbits if she's kept away from the president.
It's like, what's her name in South Carolina? What's her name?
Oh, Nancy Mace.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, Nancy Mace. Like, post a picture of herself with all these new tattoos with her shirt or with a tank top on, and she's suddenly like, "Why are you talking about my tattoos? Why are you?" Because you're showing them to us because they're in our face, ma'am. Let's play that Natalie Harp clip from 2022.
We can't talk about winning back the House and Senate in 2022 and the White House in 2024 if we don't act on the fact that we actually did win the White House and the Senate in 2020. We shouldn't be afraid to say that, because it's true.
my God.
2021, pardon me, but my Lord, I mean, that level of delusion is one of two, or one of two things. She's either that cuckoo, or she's that attuned to what Donald Trump's psychology needed from her.
I mean,
or both.
I was just going to say, can we go with both?
The Venn diagram can overlap.
Because if a person is that attuned to Donald Trump, there is some evidence that that's cuckoo.
Yes. Oh my Lord. Well, folks, we've got a lot of stuff going to pop tonight. It's going to be a big night tonight. And I want to thank everybody. I wrote a big piece about Flock today because I really view Flock as a real threat to our national security.
I 100% agree with you, Rick, on this.
Thank you, Matthew, because I started digging into it, and Flock is the tip of the spear of a big infrastructure that's coming together that I think should scare the hell out of Americans. And I'm actually going to make that article on the free in the next few minutes. I had a sponsor, a subscriber, donate to the Substack and asked me to make it public. I'm going to do that in a few minutes, but we're going to be following the news tonight. And folks, Renee and I are going to be doing one of our little cocktail and live streams tonight over at Against All Enemies after 8:00 when the poll results close in the great state of Florida. Matt, thanks for coming on tonight, brother.
Oh, great. It's always great to be with you, Rick. Always
Likewise, my friend.
I'm looking forward to the next 70 days.
We're going to have a good time.
Yep,
we're going to cause some trouble, folks.